Everybody, welcome to chapel. Lord be with you.
All right, we are very excited to be up here announcing another round of Eagle Spotlight. There have been a lot of great submissions, which we're thankful for. We don't have time to do all of them, so here are just a few amazing things happening in our community. First up is Jackson Symes. He was the leadership behind the annual March Madness brackets for staff and students. His initiative creates community through a fun event and raises funds for Kids Food Basket each year. Great work, Jackson.
Next up is Mr. Kevin Bruni. Mr. Bruni was recently recognized for all his hard work he puts into our athletic department when he was awarded Michigan Middle School Athletic Director of the Year. Mr. Bruni exemplifies being connected through relationships in his development of student groups, such as Eagle Nation. He is always encouraging students to use their God-given gifts to be their most excellent selves, whether that's in athletics, in the classroom, or in their relationships and interactions with others. Congratulations, Mr. Bruni.
Next up is Ben Bolins. Ben and his mother traveled to Washington, D.C. in March, which is Bleeding Disorders Awareness Month, representing Hemophilia Foundation of Michigan. They served as advocates for patients, access to care, and also met with members of Congress. Ben has used his story as a way to serve others, to educate, and to bring awareness, exemplifying the Eagle Way.
Next up, we have a group of students, Trevor, Sarah, Elise, Corinna, Isabel, and Madeira. We want to thank these students for helping clean up after the twerp dance. They stayed until the very end of the dance and helped Senior Student Congress clean up. There were tons of candy wrappers and glow-in-the-dark stars that needed to be picked up, and their help made the whole process go by quickly.
Corey Campbell. Just in case you haven't heard, Corey Campbell is an amazing swimmer and broke school records this year as a sophomore. One specifically was impressive because it was a record previously set 33 years ago. Corey went 52.18 in the 100-meter butterfly during his conference prelims. That record was previously set in 1985 by Dean Postma, who was a senior at the time, who went 52.56. What an awesome accomplishment.
And finally, we have Megan Bowman. The Graduating Seniors Program is a program from U.S. Figure Skating that recognizes student athletes who have worked hard to pursue figure skating while maintaining their academics. While figure skating is not a traditional school sport, it requires the same dedication, perseverance, and time management as any varsity sport. There are 4 categories of achievement, and Megan was awarded the Gold Level Graduating Senior Award. What an honor. Great work, Megan.
Let's stand and pass the peace.
All right. Good morning, Eagles. At this point, I think you all know me as Mrs. Wright, the interim coordinator, but that is really only one half of my job. I'm also so very blessed to be a biology teacher here. Thank you. I love that I get to serve you as both a teacher and administrator. So while you are more used to me talking to you from my role as interim coordinator, today I'm really speaking to you as a science teacher. In some ways, being passionate about science helps me feel closer to God. I'm grateful to witness and share with my students the way God reveals himself in his creation. Every day I see God's handiwork in the elegant design and the structure and function of living things. I see the beauty of God's created order and his plan to make sure that every organism has its own ecological niche that is fulfilled through intricate food webs and symbiotic relationships. But sometimes my scientific nature gets in the way of my faith. I believe in facts, data, evidence, repeatable investigations with predictable outcomes. So belief in Christian supernatural experiences has always been very hard for me. When I was about 10 years old, I remember my Polish grandmother and all of her short Polish friends marveling over seeing a vision of Jesus in the shadow of a rose bush in her garden. And as hard as I tried, I just couldn't see it. I even recall being a little jealous of Mrs. Delaney when she told us in chapel of a time when she saw the face of Jesus through a window in her mother's home. Well, today, I would like to share my testimony with you of the one and only time I literally, physically felt God's presence with me. Now, this is a story I have never told anyone. Not my pastor, not my husband, not my small group, not anyone. But I'm going to share it with the 1,000 of you today. So no sleeping, no cell phones. I have to be honest, for most of my life, it's been pretty easy for me to figure out what God is calling me to do. For example, I have known that I wanted to be a biology teacher before I even knew what biology was. My mom still has one of those papers you fill out on the first day of school that asks you what you want to be when you grow up. My paper from Mrs. Riley's first grade class, I wrote down that I wanted to be a nature teacher. Here's another example. I remember a morning back in college. I was playing tennis with my good friend Mike Bean, and he asked me what I ended up doing the night before. I told him that I met the man I was going to marry, and we are still married almost 24 years later. Already crying. But there was one period in my life when I really didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Every opportunity I pursued didn't work out. Doors were always closing and no new ones were opening. I didn't feel like I was in the right place. I even felt like maybe God's plans for me were over. It was a pretty dark time for me. I felt depressed, lost, and alone. I remember that I struggled to get things done. I couldn't concentrate. I cried a lot. I tried everything I could to figure out what I was supposed to be doing with my life. I made appointments with anyone that I thought could help me find my solution. I Googled. I went through pages 8, 9, and 10 of my Google searches. I was getting so desperate, I even used the Google suggestions down the right-hand side of my screen. I would spend hours going for long walks, hoping an answer would come to me. I read the Bible. I prayed. During this time in my life, I turned to the right and to the left, but my ears didn't hear a voice behind me telling me the way to walk. I was out of ideas, and I was beginning to completely freak out. Then one day my phone rang. Someone wanted to meet with me. But to be honest, this was not an opportunity I had ever really considered. I had never even heard of this place before. I wasn't sure this was going to be a good idea, but I was getting desperate, so I just agreed to go. I decided I would drive to this meeting in silence and just listen for God. So I turned off the car radio and waited to hear God. That lasted about 4 minutes. My heart was beating so fast and so loudly that to me, it sounded like the telltale heart was hiding under my floor mats. Okay, I thought, maybe I just need to be more proactive about this. I'll just turn on the Christian music radio station. I'm sure God will play a song that will be a special message just to me, so I know that this meeting is the work of His hands. Well, it was Pledge Drive week on that station, so in place of music, all I heard was the constant repeating of the phone number to call to make a donation. So as I continued to drive to this meeting, I started reading the signs I saw along the road. I'm not sure if I really expected the letters on the signs to magically rearrange into a personal message, but at this point, I was literally searching for a sign from God. The harder I looked, the less of God I saw. I was suddenly sure I should not go to this meeting. I pulled into a parking lot so I could turn around and go home. And that's when it happened. The actual moment when I physically felt God was with me. At that moment, I felt a hand on my right shoulder. It only lasted a second or two, but I definitely felt the gentle pressure of God's hand resting on my right side. It was such a strong presence that I actually tilted my rearview mirror just to make sure someone wasn't in my back seat. I suddenly felt calm and relaxed. My heart rate and breathing slowed down. I quite honestly hadn't felt this at peace in a long time. So I continued to drive to the meeting. It was June 22nd, 2010. And this meeting took place in what is probably now part of the media center. But it used to be the office of Jim Primus, then principal of Grand Rapids Christian High School. This meeting was my interview to be a biology teacher here at Christian High. Now you know it's true. I wouldn't be crying if it was like this. I just hate that I can't explain what happened on that day. I'm sure that is why I've never shared this story. I'm a little embarrassed about what you all might think. I want proof. I want witnesses. I want evidence that it happened, but I don't have any of that. What I do have is 8 wonderful years of being a part of this Christian High community and a very strong faith that this is where God wanted, even needed me to be. I know each of us has a personal relationship with Jesus that is experienced in unique ways. Maybe you have physical encounters with him. Maybe you hear his voice in your ear. Maybe you see him in a beautiful sunset or in the intricate design of a cell. Maybe he flows through your hands as you write poetry, create a painting, or play a piece of music. Maybe you feel his power in a top-shelf, glove-side slap-shot goal. And maybe you are not seeing, hearing, or feeling his presence at all right now. But please know this: he is there for you, and his way will be made known to you at the right time and in the right place. So I know it is hard to try not to worry, but God has amazing plans for each and every one of you, and I wanted a chance to personally remind you of that. As many of you know, this is my last year at Grand Rapids Christian. God is calling me to a new place and a new role. I feel so blessed to have been a part of this incredible school for the last 8 years. But I'll be honest, there's a few things I'm not going to miss. I won't miss climbing over backpacks in the town square, Friday schedules, and winter registration. And while there are many, many things I will miss, if it's okay with you, I'd like to share just a couple of special personal things. I'm going to miss PLT breakfast with the science department. I'm so proud of all we've accomplished together. I'm going to miss singing in gospel choir. I'm going to miss snow days, but I won't miss the snow. I'm going to miss my seats in Eagle Stadium, 3rd row, 40-yard line, scoreboard side. I've been sitting there so long that if I'm late to a game, the seats are still empty and waiting for me when I get there. I'm going to miss being a part of this amazing staff. Students, you have no idea how blessed you are to have such talented and dedicated teachers and support staff that care so much for your learning, your future, and your soul. I'm going to miss students stopping by to visit Charlie, my classroom chinchilla, and just to say hi. I'm going to miss praying with my small group. I'm going to miss hearing your oohs and ahs when winterim trips are announced. I'm going to miss Eagle hockey. And while this may not be appropriate to say in chapel, thank you, boys, for beating East this year. I'm going to miss borscht cookies. But what I'm going to miss most is what we are going to do right now. I love it when we end chapel with, "My friends, may you grow in grace." It's not really about the music. I mean, the song is just okay. The words are meaningful, but they're a little corny. It's about the moment when we join hands. Grand Rapids Christian is a special place where many different people come together in Christian community, and I never feel it more than when we all join hands. In that one moment, no one hesitates. They simply grab the hand of the person next to them. It doesn't matter if that person is black, white, Hispanic, or Asian, a National Honor Society member, or a special education student, gay, straight, or not even sure, staff or student, athlete or artist, science Olympian or forensic team member. It doesn't matter if you are steadfast and sure about your faith or if you are full of doubts. In that one moment, we are the body of Christ, and that is what I will miss the most. God bless each and every one of you.